Have you ever wondered why, within just a few seconds of meeting someone, you feel an inexplicable pull? A certain look, a gesture, a subtle trait that catches your attention almost before you've had a chance to think. It might feel like instinct, and in many ways it is. But it's also something deeper, something older, something shaped not just by your personal preferences, but by the hidden forces beneath your awareness. Science tells us that within mere moments of first contact, the male brain has already made a series of rapid-fire judgments. These decisions are not conscious, nor are they random. They are rooted in biology and molded by evolution. But that is only one side of the story. The other lies in the realm of the unconscious, in the symbolic and psychological patterns Carl Jung famously called archetypes. These are not ideas we learn. They are imprints. We inherit ancient blueprints that shape what we desire and how we connect. Attraction, then, is not just a matter of taste. It is a language spoken in the shadows of the mind, one that merges instinct with mythology, emotion with evolution. A man may think he is drawn to a smile, a voice, a curve, but behind that reaction is a whisper from the unconscious, a recognition of something familiar, something timeless. The image of nurturing, of vitality, of mystery, not learned, but remembered. Today we're going to explore this hidden architecture of attraction. Specifically, the 5 key physical traits that men instinctively notice first in women. Traits that are not only grounded in evolutionary biology, but also aligned with Jungian psychology. Some may seem obvious, others surprisingly profound. Together, they paint a picture of how deeply our desire is guided by forces we cannot always see or name. By the end of this journey, you may begin to view attraction not as a surface-level reaction, but as a mapone drawn by both ancient instincts and unconscious symbols. And if that idea speaks to you, stay with us. This exploration is not just about understanding others. It's about uncovering the stories written into your own psyche. And here at PsySoul, those are the stories we live to tell. To understand attraction at its core, we must first recognize that it is not a random or purely emotional experience. It is the product of a powerful intersection between evolutionary biology and deep psychological structures. On one side, we have the cold, mechanical precision of biology. On the other, the rich, symbolic world of the human psyche. Together, they shape our desires in ways we rarely recognize. From a biological standpoint, men are wired to respond to visual cues. This is not superficial vanity. It is a deeply ingrained mechanism developed over thousands of years of evolution. Our ancestors, faced with the challenge of survival and reproduction, relied on signals of health, fertility, and genetic fitness to choose suitable mates. These signals were not just preferences. They were indicators of life itself. Clear skin, symmetrical features, bright eyes, and a specific waist-to-hip ratio all served as unconscious messages. They said, "This person is healthy. This person can bear strong offspring. This person is worth investing in." But even as biology plays its part, it is the unconscious mind that gives meaning to these signals. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist and founder of analytical psychology, introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a deep, inherited layer of the psyche shared across humanity. Within this collective unconscious reside archetypes, universal patterns and images that shape our thoughts, behaviors, and desires. Among these archetypes is the Thema, the inner feminine ideal that exists within the male unconscious. This figure is not based on any one real woman, but is formed through myths, dreams, stories, and early life experiences. It carries traits like nurturance, beauty, mystery, and emotional depth. When a man meets someone who reflects aspects of this inner image, the response is immediate. It is not just attraction, it is recognition. A sense of familiarity that bypasses logic and goes straight to the heart. Thema is not static. It evolves through life, shaped by relationships, culture, and personal growth. But its foundation is universal. It draws from the same archetypal well that has existed across civilizations, from goddesses in ancient mythology to the romantic heroines in literature. This is why certain traits feel timeless. They echo through generations because they are embedded in our psychic DNA. In this sense, the male brain does not merely react to external beauty. It responds to internal symbols, those that align with the nurturing mother, the youthful maiden, or the passionate lover. These figures are not fantasies. They are psychological anchors, and they color every interaction, every glance, every feeling of desire. Evolutionary psychology extends Jung's insights into the realm of survival. It argues that the traits men find attractive are not arbitrary but adaptive. They have been selected over time because they increase the likelihood of successful mating and reproduction. This is why, even today, men across cultures are drawn to similar traits. Despite variations in fashion or social norms, the core signals remain consistent. Yet culture also plays a role. It shapes the way these biological and psychological signals are expressed. In some societies, fuller bodies have been revered as symbols of abundance and fertility. In others, slenderness has been associated with refinement and discipline. These shifts reflect changing environments, values, and ideals, but they do not erase the deeper instincts. Instead, they wrap them in new language, new forms. Attraction, then, is not a simple matter of taste. It is a layered experience, a convergence of the ancient and the modern, the instinctual and the symbolic. When a man notices certain features in a woman, he is not just seeing with his eyes. He is perceiving with his biology and projecting with his unconscious. He is responding to echoes from the past, both evolutionary and psychological, that speak to his desire for connection, continuity, and meaning. And that is what makes attraction so fascinating. It is never just about what is visible. It is about what is felt, about what is remembered, not by the mind, but by the soul. Here at PsySoul, we explore those silent forces, the patterns you cannot name, but know deep down to be true. Stay with us, because in the next section, we will begin uncovering the 5 specific traits that ignite this ancient mechanism of attraction. Traits that may seem familiar on the surface, but when seen through the lens of psychology and biology, reveal far more than meets the eye. 1. The eyes. Windows to the soul and the unconscious. The eyes are often described as windows to the soul, and within the context of attraction, this phrase holds a deeper truth than most realize. In the very first moments of encounter, a man's gaze is often drawn to a woman's eyes, not simply to assess beauty, but to seek out something more elusive, emotional resonance. The eyes speak a silent language, conveying vulnerability, openness, confidence, and depth. They offer a direct path into another's emotional world, bypassing words and logic. From a biological perspective, this response is not accidental. Eye contact activates regions in the brain associated with social bonding and emotional regulation. It triggers the release of oxytocin, commonly known as the bonding hormone, which plays a key role in attachment and intimacy. Larger, more expressive eyes are also subconsciously associated with youth and fertility. In evolutionary terms, they signal vitality and reproductive readiness, traits that have historically enhanced the chances of successful mating. Carl Jung's psychological framework offers a complementary view. In his theory of archetypes, the feminine ideal that resides in the male unconscious, known as the Thema, is often projected onto features that represent emotional access and mystery. The eyes, with their capacity to express unspoken feelings, become a symbolic mirror of this archetype. They carry the essence of the maiden figure, innocent, receptive, and enigmatic. A glance can feel like a mythic moment of recognition, as though something ancient has stirred within. Unconsciously, men interpret the eyes as gateways to emotional availability. They are assessing not just attraction, but compatibility, trustworthiness, and depth. A woman's gaze can suggest openness or defense, warmth or indifference, and these signals are read instantaneously. The reaction is visceral. It is not a calculation, but a recognition, an internal voice whispering that here lies someone who may understand, connect, and nurture. This symbolic weight is echoed throughout art, mythology, and culture. From the divine gaze of Egyptian goddesses to the intense eyes in Renaissance portraits, human history has revered the eye as a sacred organ of perception and truth. In literature, a single glance often carries more weight than entire conversations. In modern media, close-up shots of eyes are used to establish intimacy, to evoke emotion, and to draw the viewer inward. These examples remind us that our fascination with eyes is not a recent invention. It is deeply rooted in both our biology and our collective psyche. The eyes, then, are not just something men notice. They are something men feel. They are a living canvas where emotion, instinct, and imagination meet. They carry meaning far beyond aesthetics. They reflect the self, reveal the soul, and invite connection in a way no other feature can. In the language of attraction, the eyes speak first, and they often speak the loudest. 2. The lips, symbols of life, femininity, and emotional communication. Lips hold a powerful place in human attraction, serving as both a biological cue and a cultural symbol. Among the first features that catch a man's attention, the lips convey far more than sensual appeal. They are a focal point for nonverbal communication, expressing emotion, intention, and vitality. Their shape, fullness, color, and movement form a visual language that operates beneath awareness, yet exerts a potent influence on perception. Biologically, full, well-defined lips are associated with high levels of estrogen. During ovulation, blood flow to the lips increases, subtly enhancing their size and color, a natural signal of fertility. This hormonal change is not consciously noticed, but it is picked up by the male brain as a sign of reproductive readiness. Smooth texture, symmetry, and natural redness all serve as indicators of youth and health, two pillars of evolutionary attractiveness. Unlike some features, lips offer real-time biological feedback, influenced by hormones, hydration, and overall wellness. Jungian psychology brings yet another layer of meaning. In Jung's framework, the lips symbolize the threshold between the inner self and the outer world. They are where thought becomes word, where emotion becomes expression. The lips bridge the unconscious and the conscious, mirroring the anima or feminine archetype, receptive, expressive, and emotionally attuned. A smile can disarm, a bite of the lip can intrigue, a whispered word can bind hearts. In all these expressions, the lips function as vessels of psychological energy. On an unconscious level, the male mind reads the lips as a key to intimacy and emotional availability. They communicate trust, seduction, playfulness, or warmth, all without speaking. This silent dialogue has evolved over millennia. In the absence of words, humans learned to read intention through the smallest gestures, and the lips became a prime channel for this exchange. A slight curl of amusement, a gentle pout, a moment of parted stillness, all these register deeply, awakening both instinct and imagination. Culturally, lips have been immortalized as symbols of desire and affection. From ancient sculptures to pop culture icons, full lips have often been celebrated as the epitome of feminine allure. In countless artworks, from Botticelli's Venus to modern fashion photography, the lips are emphasized not just for their beauty, but for the emotions they promise to convey. Even cosmetic practices such as lipstick or gloss are not mere decoration. They enhance biological cues, amplifying what the brain already finds attractive. The impact of lips in attraction is subtle but undeniable. They are not loud, but they are persuasive. They do not need words, yet they speak volumes. They signal warmth, vitality, and openness. And in doing so, they awaken the most ancient parts of the male psyche. Lips are not just noticed, they are remembered. Not simply for their shape or softness, but for the messages they deliver in silence. In the dance of first impressions, they are a powerful and primal force, both biological and symbolic, sensual and sacred. 3. Hair. A thread between vitality and identity. Hair has long been more than just a frame for the face. In many cultures and myths, it is seen as a symbol of power, beauty, and spiritual energy. For men, a woman's hair can become a powerful visual cue that signals vitality, health, and a deeper archetypal resonance. In the earliest moments of attraction, hair often plays a silent but undeniable role. Biologically, the quality of hair offers real insight into a person's health. Shiny, thick, and well-maintained hair reflects a well-functioning endocrine system and a balanced diet. During a woman's reproductive prime, estrogen promotes hair growth and luster, making it a reliable marker of youth and fertility. In contrast, dull or brittle hair can indicate stress, illness, or hormonal imbalance factors. The subconscious mind may register as potential reproductive risks. Men are not consciously analyzing these details, but their brains are attuned to them through millennia of evolutionary filtering. Carl Jung's concept of archetypes adds another layer of meaning. In this framework, hair aligns with the Great Mother, archetype nurturing, life-giving, and powerful. Long, flowing hair represents more than just femininity. It becomes a metaphor for the abundance of life itself. The image of hair as a life force appears again and again in cultural symbolism. In fairy tales like Rapunzel, hair is not only beautiful, it is magical, healing, even liberating. In classical art, goddesses are often portrayed with cascading locks that flow like rivers of light, emphasizing their divine connection to nature and creation. On an unconscious level, hair also serves as a personal signature. It reflects individuality, style, and self-care. Whether straight or curly, long or short, adorned or natural, hair communicates aspects of personality that words cannot. It reveals how a woman presents herself to the world, and in doing so, offers clues about her emotional and psychological state. A man's attention to hair, then, is not solely about aesthetics. It is about sensing presence, energy, and the essence of someone's being. Hair has always held a place of reverence in human history. Ancient rites often involved the braiding, shaving, or offering of hair as symbols of transformation and commitment. In many traditions, hair was believed to carry spiritual energy, a belief echoed in modern metaphors like letting your hair down to symbolize freedom and authenticity. Even in today's beauty standards, luscious hair remains one of the most celebrated features of femininity. To the primal mind, hair is not just decoration, it is declaration, a message of life, strength, and identity. It flows with the rhythm of health and speaks to the silent memory of every mythic feminine figure that has ever been revered. And in that flow, a man sees more than beauty. He sees vitality made visible. 4. Waist-to-hip ratio, the genetic code of fertility. Of all the physical features that silently influence male attraction, the waist-to-hip ratio stands as one of the most scientifically validated. It is not about thinness or size, but about proportion. Across cultures and continents, men consistently find themselves drawn to a waist-to-hip ratio of approximately 0.7, a proportion where the waist is significantly narrower than the hips. This preference is not random, it is rooted in deep evolutionary logic. Biologically, a low waist-to-hip ratio is strongly associated with optimal estrogen levels, healthy fat distribution, and reproductive potential. Women with this ratio are more likely to conceive, carry healthy pregnancies, and recover postpartum. This makes WHR a reliable visual indicator of fertility. Unlike other traits that may be enhanced or hidden, body proportion is a consistent cue that the subconscious brain uses to assess long-term mating viability. Carl Jung's symbolic lens reveals another layer of meaning. The curved hourglass figure aligns with the archetype of the motherly life-giver, the nurturer, the provider of sustenance and security. It is no coincidence that ancient fertility statues, from the Venus of Willendorf to sculptures from Mesopotamia and India, all emphasize wide hips and full forms. These figures were not just artistic expressions, they were embodiments of survival, abundance, and the sacred feminine. On a psychological level, the male brain does not interpret these proportions as mere numbers. It registers them as signs of life potential, a shape that suggests the capacity to nurture, protect, and continue the species. This assessment happens rapidly, often below conscious awareness. While modern beauty standards fluctuate, celebrating ultra-thin frames in one decade and curvier silhouettes in another, the preference for this ratio remains surprisingly stable. It transcends trends because it is tied to biology. The hourglass shape has also been immortalized in cultural imagination. From the glamorous figures of Marilyn Monroe and Sophia Loren to contemporary icons, the curved form continues to evoke desire, femininity, and fertility. It is a visual echo of our ancestral instincts. Even in fashion and advertising, poses and clothing are designed to accentuate this ratio, knowing it draws the eye without explanation. To put it simply, the primitive brain does not see measurements. It sees meaning. It recognizes the proportions as signals of survival. In this way, the waist-to-hip ratio is not merely about physical attractiveness. It is about the deepest imperative of life itself, the continuation of the human story. 5. Skin, the honest canvas of health and genetic fitness. Skin may seem like a subtle detail, but in the realm of attraction, it plays a far more critical role than most realize. As the body's largest and most visible organ, skin serves as a direct reflection of internal health. Men may not consciously focus on it first, but their brains are constantly registering cues from the skin, assessing quality, clarity, tone, and texture in split seconds. These cues carry vital information about a woman's biological fitness, youth, and even emotional stability. Biologically, smooth, clear skin is linked to balanced hormones, strong immunity, and youthfulness. It signals low levels of toxins and inflammation, both of which can affect fertility. Unlike other features that can be easily altered or concealed, skin presents a relatively honest signal of overall wellness. It cannot fake hydration, circulation, or cellular vitality. This makes it a reliable source of subconscious information for those seeking a healthy mate. In Jungian psychology, skin holds symbolic significance as well. It is the boundary between the self and the world. A harmonious, glowing complexion suggests alignment between the inner and outer self. A reflection of the archetype Jung called the self, the ideal of psychological wholeness and integration. The clarity of skin becomes more than an aesthetic trait. It becomes a metaphor for inner harmony, emotional health, and the invisible energy a person carries. Unconsciously, the male mind is drawn to skin that reflects vitality and openness. There is a psychological response to brightness, smoothness, and even a traits that suggest the person is thriving physically and emotionally. Culturally, this fascination with skin has taken many forms, from ancient beauty rituals involving oils and herbs to modern skincare obsessions. In nearly every era and society, clear skin has been a marker of beauty, not only because it pleases the eye, but because it reassures the instincts. Art history, too, offers countless examples of skin idealized as soft, radiant, and ethereal. In sculpture and painting, from the marble goddesses of Greece to the luminous portraits of the Renaissance, artists sought to capture the light that seems to emanate from healthy skin. Even today, photography and digital media strive to replicate the glow of collagen-rich, youthful complexions. Skin, ultimately, is a language. It does not speak in words, but in signals. It tells a story about health, about life, about resilience. In the eyes of the unconscious mind, it becomes a canvas of potential, a message written in biology but read by the soul. For men, noticing skin is not a shallow act. It is a primal one, a way of reading life through the surface of another. While biology and archetypes create a universal framework for attraction, they do not tell the whole story. Each person's experience adds a unique brushstroke to the canvas of desire. What we are drawn to is not only shaped by primal instincts and inherited symbols, but also by our own emotional history. The unconscious mind may hold timeless patterns, but it also absorbs the impressions of our past. And these impressions can profoundly shape what we find beautiful, comforting, or irresistible. Carl Jung referred to this as the interaction between the collective unconscious and the personal unconscious. While the collective unconscious contains universal archetypes, the maiden, the mother, the lover, the personal unconscious holds our memories, traumas, longings, and unresolved emotions. It is within this interplay that attraction becomes deeply personal. For example, a man raised by a distant or emotionally unavailable mother may find himself instinctively drawn to women with warm, expressive eyes. Her gaze, though subtle, may represent the nurturing he lacked in childhood. Another man who grew up surrounded by strong, independent women may feel a deep pull toward features that suggest strength or defiance, echoing the feminine power he learned to respect. In these cases, the attraction is not simply about beauty, it is about recognition. The subconscious is not seeking perfection, but familiarity. It searches for what feels known, even if that familiarity comes from pain. Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed or hidden parts of the psyche, further explains these dynamics. Sometimes, we are drawn to traits that reflect what we have denied or disowned within ourselves. A quiet, introverted man may find himself captivated by someone extroverted and expressive. Not because he consciously seeks contrast, but because she embodies the parts of himself he has suppressed. These attractions are not logical. They are symbolic. They are the psyche's attempt to heal, to grow, or to integrate what has been lost. This is why two men can look at the same woman and feel entirely different things. One may see beauty where another sees nothing. One may feel magnetism while another remains indifferent. Their reactions are shaped not only by instinct, but by memory, projection, and the emotional architecture of their lives. Attraction, then, is not only a response to the external world. It is a reflection of the internal one. It mirrors not just what we want, but who we are, where we've been, and what we are still trying to understand. Attraction is often misunderstood as something purely visual, a reaction to symmetry, shape, or style. But as we have explored, what draws us to one another goes far deeper than surface features. It is not just about what is seen, it is about what is felt. True attraction emerges from a complex dialogue between biology, unconscious archetypes, personal history, and emotional energy. It is as much about resonance as it is about recognition. Each of the 5 physical traits, we examine the eyes, lips, hair, waist-to-hip ratio, and skin holds power because it speaks to something within us. They signal health, fertility, emotional presence, and symbolic meaning. But they are only the beginning. They serve as entry points into a deeper connection, one that is shaped by how someone carries themselves, how they express who they are, and how they make others feel. Presence is not about perfection. It is about alignment. It is about authenticity. Carl Jung taught that wholeness comes not from becoming ideal, but from integrating all parts of the self-light and shadow, strength and vulnerability. In this sense, the most attractive people are not those who chase standards or mimic trends. They are those who inhabit themselves fully, who are grounded in who they are, aware of their depth, and open to connection. That inner clarity radiates outward, often more powerfully than any physical trait. This shift in perspective is freeing. When you understand that attraction is not simply about being seen but about being felt, you can stop performing and start embodying. You begin to recognize that your presence, how you listen, how you move, how you relate is the real magnet. And that magnetism is cultivated, not manufactured. It grows from inner coherence, from self-awareness, and from embracing your unique psychological fingerprint. So the next time you wonder what truly makes someone attractive, remember this. It is not just the curve of a smile or the glow of skin. It is the energy behind the smile, the story beneath the surface, the unconscious connection that cannot be forced. Attraction is not an illusion. It is a language. And the more you learn to speak it from within, the more effortlessly it begins to speak for you. If this exploration has stirred something in you, stay connected with us here at PsySoul. We will continue diving into the unseen layers of human connection, where instinct meets meaning and psychology becomes a path to presence.